Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Like That podcast. I'm Jackson.
And I'm Matt. And this week it was a decently slow week in sports, but we'll go over some quick world of sports updates. We got our snake draft of our favorite athletes to play for Minnesota sports teams. We'll do our Timberwolves and Wild discussion as always, and then we'll end it with our Twitter mailbag. So Jackson, we'll get into it. Pretty slow week around the world of sports. Just looking for topics this week was harder than other weeks. But at first, I got on the list Fernando Tatis Jr. Huge deal. I think it's the biggest in MLB history. I'm not necessarily sure if that's true, but it seems to be. He got a 4-year, $340 million deal from the San Diego Padres after an amazing season last year. But that just shows you one amazing year in baseball can get you a contract for your entire career. And Fernando Tatis is sitting down with $340 million in the bank.
Yeah, I think it's a horrible deal. I mean, this kid, he had a decent rookie year. Wasn't anything special. Well, first year of competition, I don't think it was a full season, and then this last year, it's a shortened season. Pitchers had one of the worst years they've ever had because it's a shortened season. It's just not a whole lot of preparation before the season, and he has a very good year. I mean, it wasn't anything super special. It was a great year from a player who's supposed to be good. I don't see the point in paying a kid who could be a 1-year wonder. I don't know. I don't like this deal. I don't think it's the biggest, but it very well could be because I think Mike Trout makes more. But I'll look that up. But
it's crazy to see in baseball because in the NFL, I mean, Patrick Mahomes deal is an outlier, but NFL, you don't get deals over 5 years. It's you never see it outside of Patrick Mahomes. It's the same way in basketball. You can't get a deal more than 5 years. So it's crazy to see baseball, like all these big dudes in baseball are getting 10+ year contracts. If you're getting this contract at 25 years old, you're like, this is a 14-year deal. If you're even getting a 10-year deal at 25 years old, you're set up for your entire career. It's insane. Like, there's no way you can tell me in 14 years that Fernando Tatis will be worth however many million, it's like $30 million a year. You gotta tell me at 35, Tatis is gonna be worth $30 million.
yeah, and he's only 22 years old. I mean, he's still a kid, and you're just banking so much of your franchise. I mean, the Padres are spending so much money this year; they're going all in. But yeah, he's the third highest paid contract in MLB history, behind Mookie Betts, who was 1, and Mike Trout 2. But he has 2 more years on them. I mean, I think it's the longest. So he will get paid some more. But I don't know. I don't like the deal. I think Tatis, he's had one good year. Like I said, he's a 22-year-old. I mean, that's a whole lot of pressure on a 22-year-old to play up to a contract of that stature. I mean, you look at the names who are on that top contract list. I mean, you got Mookie Betts, MVP. Did Fernando Tatis win award last year?
If he didn't, he was very close to. I remember there was discussion for it. I don't remember if he won one. Here, I'll look.
Won a silver slugger. But yeah, I mean, Mike Trout, multi MVP, best player, one of the best players of all time. I mean, you got Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, just great names. And then Fernando Tatis just kind of sticks out. I mean, it's not that he's not a great player. Maybe he will be. It's very early. I mean, it's insane that they paid him this much after a shortened year. I mean, it was a weird year for baseball this last summer.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're banking on a lot of money.
Next topic we got lined up. Carson Wentz obviously got traded to the Indianapolis Colts last week. And yesterday it came out, it was just a random piece of news that Michael Pittman was not going to give Carson Wentz the number 11. I don't know if Carson Wentz put up a fight for the number, but it's
No,
just
no,
like
no, he didn't.
Pittman said, like he saw how locked in I was to number 11, and we just decided that I'm gonna keep it.
Well, what I saw was, I mean, the headline was much more harsh than what I saw.
Yeah.
I saw Carson Wentz saying that he really wanted a change of numbers anyways, so it's not a big deal. And I think this is way overblown of a subject. I mean, if some kid wants to keep his number, it's just a stupid number. Numbers mean absolutely nothing in sports, absolutely nothing. So I know a competitor like Carson Wentz obviously does not care about a number. He just wants to go there and play football away from the trash bag city of Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the headline definitely made it look much worse than it actually was. I'm sure, yeah. Pittman's probably looking at his phone right now, seeing everyone like pissed at him, like, what is going on? I'm literally just keeping the number. It had nothing to do with a fight or anything. I didn't say, fuck off, Carson Wentz. I'm keeping number 11. You can pick your own number. Like, I don't think that's what happened.
No, I don't think this is a deal. I don't even think it's a deal. I mean, I saw somebody NFL wide receiver. I think it was uh I don't know, AJ Brown, I think, but said that he's not going to get targets now. You got to give the quarterback whatever he wants. That's not going to happen. It's just a number.
Just imagine. Carson Wentz goes from no receivers, and then he gets like a decent receiver in Mike Pittman, and he's just not going to throw it to him because he has took number 11 from him.
Yeah, I don't know what the receiver core is going to look like next year. I don't know if Michael Pittman's going to be number 1, but
hopefully for Wentz they add another piece, because the Colts receiving core is not something to be super excited about. I mean, T.Y. Hilton's old. He's not close to the player that he once was back in the Andrew Luck days. And Michael Pittman, who showed some promise last year, he's obviously not a stud yet, but he can be a solid receiver in this league. And then they got some ancillary pieces like Zach Pascal, Chester Rogers. I don't know if he's still on the Colts, but I think that they'll probably address that in free agency or the draft this offseason.
That's where I disagree with you a little bit. I think T.Y. Hilton is still what he was. I think he was overrated when he was with Andrew Luck, but he had a quarterback who could throw deep. Last year, he did not have a quarterback who could throw very deep. So we'll see what he is.
He's getting into his 30s, though.
Yeah, so
we're going to see the drop off of T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Thielen either. Obviously, he didn't start like actually playing in the league consistently until he was like 25, 26 years old. So we'll see what happens with him too. But yeah, Michael Pittman not giving his number to Wentz isn't that big of a deal, as the media is blowing it up to be. Probably good for Wentz to change numbers. He wants a new start. Obviously, Philly didn't end the way that he would have liked it to. So we'll see how that experiment goes in Indianapolis. But that Photoshop edits of Carson Wentz in a Colts jersey look amazing. He looks so good in the Colts blue.
Yeah, it definitely is a fit. I'm excited. I'm very vocal about. I think Carson Wentz still has it. I don't think you can go from MVP form to how bad he was last year that fast. So I'm excited to see him with a good organization, a good fan base who won't just. Actually, the Eagles fan base really liked Carson Wentz. I don't think they really hated him that much.
I mean, there was a group that was like, there was a group that was pissed that they kept him over Foles because Foles won them a Super Bowl. But I think some of them kind of turned on him this past year just because that's what Philly fans do to players really that underperform. So, but that's what we expect from Philly.
Moving on, a little Vikings news and rumblings and rumors. Keelan Cole, Jacksonville Jaguar, former wide receiver, has been rumored to connections with the Vikings due to the wide receiver coach moving to the Vikings. I believe that's pretty much why it would be rumored. But I have my take. But what's yours?
Yeah, no, I know we differ on this. Yeah, Keelan Cole has been linked to the Vikings by, I mean, not very reliable sources on Twitter. It's not like Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport tweeted interest there. Well, there can't really be interest because free agency hasn't opened yet. That would be tampering. But obviously, Keaton McCardell, who was the wide receiver coach for the Jags last year, is now our wide receivers coach. So Keelan Cole has worked under McCardell for a couple of years now. So there could be interest there. Also, have a need at the wide receiver 3 position. I mean, it's not a huge glaring need but we got BB and OBC Johnson there right now. Keelan Cole was decently productive last year. He was also the kick returner and punt returner for the Jags, which is something that we don't have in Minnesota right now. He'd likely be coming here on a cheap deal. He's not going to make that much money because it's Keelan Cole, but he would slot into that number 3 wide receiver spot. It's not like Keelan Cole's better than like a Tajay Sharp. Like I don't think that signing is comparable to if we signed Keelan Cole. Tajay Sharp
Can't get much worse.
Was always a fringe guy to make the roster, even though people had hopes for him to be wide receiver 3. But I mean, if we can get Keelan Cole here on a cheap deal, I'm all for it because the more competition in the back end of the wide receiver room, it will only help us.
Yeah, I don't think Keelan Cole's a very good wide receiver. I think if he can be a good kick and punt returner, then it's worth the money. I don't think spending if it's very, very cheap. Otherwise, I don't think spending a bunch of money on a wide receiver who doesn't have the skill up to like what Chad Beebe or Olabisi Johnson are. I mean, they're not the most skilled guys. I mean, but if they're not better than those two, it's not worth signing unless they can get a few touchdowns and not fumble the ball on the kick return and punt return. But if it happens, it better be cheap, and he better be better than BB and Olabisi. I better not see Chad Beebe catching third down balls anymore then.
Yeah, I would assume Keelan Cole would start over them unless something weird happened. But we'll move on to the Lake Tahoe game in the NHL this week. You talked about it last week on the podcast. Well, let's start with this first. The pictures from that game were sweet. Like that was a cool setup. You got the mountains in the background. There's a picture of I don't know whatever goalie, and then the mountains in the background. Like picture perfect game. It wasn't a perfect game by any means because it ended up getting delayed for 8 hours because of ice conditions. Can you talk about that?
Well, I just don't understand it. I mean, you got all of Canada, you have all of Minnesota, you have all these cold city towns who could host these kind of games. Then you pick a town where the sun is going to melt the ice. The whole point of hockey is to keep the ice cold, and they couldn't do that because they decided to pick a place where the sun is going to be too hot for it. It was cool pictures and all, and that's why they did it. But there's mountains there's mountains other places. Colorado too. It was cold in Colorado. I don't know why they didn't. I mean, they did it last year there, but it just frustrates me how the NHL continues to. They lack marketing, and then they do stunts like this where they lost so much viewership. Who stayed up and watched? I mean, I did, but who else stayed up and watched the 12 a.m. to finish a hockey game that doesn't really matter, just because it has cool scenery that you can't even see at night?
I can
beyond
guarantee
frustrating. But
I can guarantee you the people that started watching that game definitely did not finish watching that game that night.
Well, if they were fans of the teams, probably, and I did, but I mean, just casual.
Was that on Saturday? Was that a weekend game?
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, so like if people not doing anything Saturday like afternoon, obviously you tune in because that'd be a cool thing to watch on Saturday afternoon. But once it gets delayed 8 hours, like you're not going to stay up and watch that.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating for the players, and the players that you put in. Hockey players put in so much preparation for a game. Every game they put mental preparation just to get ready for the game, and then you play the game, and you have to wait. You have a huge break during the middle of a game to act like another game that same day. So it's just two preparations for no reason. There's, like I said, there's so many places in the world where it's cold and the ice will stay frozen. There was people with short sleeve shirts on and shorts on boats. That's not a hockey environment. I understand the NHL is trying to reach like other states other than Canada and upper US, but I mean, Buffalo deserves a game. That would have been so cool somewhere in Buffalo. Just so many places other than Lake Tahoe. I don't know. I was a little frustrated by that. I think it's not a good look when you have to stop a game because the ice is melting. So
Yeah,
That's just
that's
my
tough.
opinion. But yeah,
I think it was their attempt at it, like a marketing idea, because like obviously the pictures are going to attract eyes outside of hockey. It just wasn't executed to in the best way, which
yeah.
kind of hurt them in a way
Well,
that they probably didn't account for.
and another place that would have worked that they talked about was Lake Louise, and I mean that it would have looked just it would have looked just as cool, the scenery, and it would have been gold. It was a mistake, and it turned out okay for the Philadelphia Boston game. It looked very cool on sunset, but yeah, they had to have it in a night game. Couldn't have that sun on there like they did, they had to have something to freeze the ice through the sun. I don't know how they didn't predict that, but yeah, it's kind of a disaster the first game at least, but the second game worked pretty well. Actually, I think they had to delay the game a little bit for the second game too.
Two delays in
But
one day. It's tough.
another note, a little off subject of that, but
Yeah.
on subject. So Mike Tirico, I think this is his first year announcing hockey games for NBC because of Eddie Olczyk, or not Eddie Olczyk. Oh boy, how am I forgetting his name? But anyways, legendary announcer, retiring last year for NBC, but Mike Tirico has been excellent.
He's great.
Yeah,
He's great.
football announcer, obviously, one of the best football announcers in the NFL. I think probably the best. But yeah, he switched to hockey, and I don't want him to go back. I think he's excellent. He's such a good announcer.
Yeah, he's very good at everything he does. He's definitely better than his colleagues over at over broadcasting NFL games in Jonathan Vilma. So we'll take Mike Tirico when we can. Last topic for sports news. It's kind of some somber news coming out of this morning, but it's gotten brighter a little bit as the day goes on. Tiger Woods was in a big car crash this morning. I believe his vehicle rolled, and they had to use the jaws of life. Is what everyone is. I have no idea what the jaws of life are, but obviously Tiger was trapped in his car, pretty bad, and they ended up getting him out. And it seems to be he's doing fine at the hospital. He doesn't have any life-threatening injuries. So while it started as like, holy shit, Tiger Woods might die, it looks like he's going to be fine.
Yeah, jaws of life are just something that can like cut through the.
All right, it just cuts through car metal.
Yeah, it's just
I figured
big utensil. But yeah, that's scary. I mean, it's thank God that it's not life-threatening injuries. It would have been back-to-back years with absolute legends passing in tragic ways. Tiger Woods is just that person that you grow up golfing, you want to imitate him. It was a tough morning. I was very, very nervous when I saw the news. I was very upset, and just thank God that he's okay, and hopefully he can get back to golfing. That guy's career. For being
it's
probably
just
one of the greatest of all times, he's had a heck of a difficult career.
Yeah,
but
I this was giving me like full Kobe vibes when I saw the Tiger Woods car crash, because if you think about it, Tiger Woods is the Kobe Bryant of golf. Successful at a very, very young age. Tiger was winning majors at super young. Kobe got drafted straight out of high school. They both have controversial pasts. Like Kobe had the rape allegations, and Tiger had the thing with all those women.
And the alcohol.
So they have a little bit of So they both have some controversial past, but like they're some of the best. Or Tiger, the best to ever do it. Kobe, one of the best to ever do it. So like Tiger Woods and Kobe Bryant are like the same people.
Yeah, it was tough to see that. It was a little worrisome when you didn't hear anything, just heard that he was in surgery, and you see the car crash. It doesn't look good, but I think they did report that it's not life threatening. So thank goodness for that, and hopefully he gets back to golf. He's even when he's not in his prime like he is right now and not winning like he used to, he's still, everybody tunes in to watch him. He's the greatest, and glad he's okay. We'll move on to our favorite. We're going to do a snake draft. We're going to do a snake draft of favorite athletes to play for Minnesota teams. These are me and Matt's favorite athletes, not your favorite athletes, even though hopefully they are.
Hopefully you pick ours. Hopefully you pick ours. Yes. All right, I got first pick.
You're up first.
I have first pick. Jackson picks first last week in our in our snacks
Man, did I
snake
get
draft.
destroyed on that.
You got, I think, like 8 or 10% of the votes, which is not ideal. Not ideal for you. But I got the first pick. I think it's a runaway first pick. Like probably the most influential like guy who is all over the media. Everyone loves this guy. He's fun. He moons the Packers. It's Randy Moss.
You might win it with that one.
Randy Moss is a legend. I don't know how you would hate Randy Moss unless you're like a Packers fan or someone that hates like the Patriots and when he had success there. But Randy Moss is just a fantastic dude. Everyone loves him. Working for ESPN now, doing Sunday night countdown or Monday night countdown too. So Randy Moss was hands down for me the number one overall pick. Now I'll let you take 2 in a row.
Yeah, so I'll take this one. I think is going to be a favorite. I might take him a little too high, but this is the guy. I know this is very cheesy and typical to say for your favorite player growing up, but this is the guy who really got me to really love football. Jared Allen.
Yeah.
Every time I play football in the yard with friends, I take a sack and then I rope up the calf and the celebration. And I had his jersey. I love Jared Allen. He's
what number did he wear, Jackson? What number?
69.
That makes it even better. That makes it an even better pick for you.
And he had the greatest retirement send off as well, riding into the sunset on a horse. He's just he's so cool. Coolest man alive.
I will never forget the season he had 22 sacks or whatever, and he was half a sack away from Strahan's record. That was just one of the most, if not the most dominant Viking season ever outside of Adrian Peterson's 2,000-yard year. Jared Allen really put up those sack numbers for us back when he played. Yeah, everyone loved Jared Allen.
Yeah, absolutely. And my second pick, it's kind of exactly on the lines. I wrote this to him in a DM once, and he thought he responded one of the greatest moments that I resented. I was pretty young at the time. I resented Brian Robinson. I resented him when he was starting to he came. What's the word? He arrived with that long hair, and he was starting to take sacks for Jared Allen. Yeah. I just did not like that he was taking Jared Allen's sacks. But then Jared Allen leaves, and right away Brian Robinson's my favorite player on the Vikings. Was my favorite player on the Vikings until the day he retired. One of the toughest days of my Viking fandom career. I loved Brian Robinson. He's one of the most influential for me in both ways. I mean, if you know me, I love to bass fish, and he's a big bass fisherman, so I follow him through that. Favorite football player playing there, and obviously has the greatest Viking show on planet Earth with 96 questions.
Nothing will ever beat how good 96 questions were. If you didn't watch 96 questions when it was a thing, you really missed out, because it allowed us to let us get to know the locker room, not through the typical media lens. We actually got to see them be fun and have cool answers, and B-Rob helped facilitate that. So absolutely. I asked the Vikings every single year to try to bring back from some form of 96 questions, because every time it came out, I was watching it within 30 minutes of when it was released, because I loved that show.
It was the highlight of the week.
For sure.
You're up.
All right. This is I'm just picking dogs. Just absolute dogs with the dog mentality. They're going to fuck you up on the field, the court, anywhere. Just legends of the game that played for Minnesota. And there's no one that can get feistier than this man on the playing field, and that's Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett's so cool. Anything he does is so cool, just because he's such a badass, and if you say something to him, he's going to beat the shit out of you. And he always talking shit to the other team. And the Timberwolves have never had a dog outside, a dog like KG outside of since he left. He's got a killer mentality that we've been lacking for such a long time. And everyone just wants him to be the owner now, because because he was so great for the Timberwolves organization. So Kevin Garnett, even though I caught like the tail end of his career with the Timberwolves, because obviously we're only 20, 21 years old. So I didn't get all the whole KG era, but I can definitely respect KG's game and everything that he's done for the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, I can tell you that he was on my list too. And for not being a big basketball fan, I had a KG jersey when I was little, and I would have a mini hoop, and I'd be playing basketball in the house while watching Kevin Garnett.
He's a badass.
Yes.
Him and
My
Randy Moss.
Oh,
Oh,
you're up
we
again.
got me.
Sorry.
Yeah, I messed up the thing. My third pick, Pat Williams.
Yes.
I mean, this is,
Can't believe you lasted this long.
people might not honestly like this pick. I just feel like Pat Williams is so close to my heart. As a young child who watched Pat Williams, seeing how fat that man was on the football field just gave me so much joy. Every time he ran, every time he moved, every time he just even smiled, it just brought up a smile to my face because big old 94 was out there stuffing the run, being a jolly fat fella. And I think I accredit some of my Vikings fandom to watching Pat Williams on the field every Sunday. The Williams Wall, they were just so cool. Even though they both got suspended for PEDs one season, I mean, it happens to the best of us. Pat
Yes.
Williams should forever be a Minnesota Vikings legend for what he's done for us, and he holds a big place in my 10-year-old heart.
It's a great pick. I can't believe it lasted this long. I was surprised it wasn't your first or second pick, but um my third, it's not going to be one that many people are going to. I don't know. They all love him, but there's not going to be many people would have picked. I would say, but this is a guy that, growing up, I was born in a hockey family, and the goalie who, or the goalie who got me to really want to play goalie was Martin Tanberger. But the other goalie who really got me to love wild hockey and really want to be a goalie was Nicholas Backstrom. I lived through the Manny Fernandez days a little bit. I lived through the Josh Harding days, what could have been with him. Obviously the Rolston years, or Rolston, excuse me. But Nicholas Backstrom was that goalie we grew up with, and I used my favorite goalie instantly. But yeah, Nicholas Backstrom,
When I think wild
Minnesota
goalie,
Wild Nicholas Backstrom.
when I think that you don't want the Capitals one. When I
No.
think Minnesota goalie, I think Nicholas Backstrom. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like the first, even as not a huge hockey fan myself, like my first memories of the Wild involve Nicholas Backstrom and net. So
for sure.
definitely a great Wild pick.
My next one is Joe Mauer. He's just that player that he got it. He got every little kid to love watching Twins baseball, and he was a hometown hero, and had some great years. Obviously, the Eminem brothers was everybody's favorite. You would argue who's better, Mauer or Morneau. So, Joe Mauer is my other pick.
All right, that's a good pick. Mauer at the end of his career, I didn't have him on my list just because he left such a bad taste in my mouth. Not that it was his fault, but I just think it's because we gave him such a big contract, and towards the end of that deal, it was such a bad contract for us. And he was hitting like 2 home runs a year, and he started hitting under 300. Just like so, that left a bad taste in my mouth. But definitely Joe Mauer, Twins legend, one of the best to ever do it for us. It's sad that he wasn't able to win a title here in Minnesota, but yeah, you're right. The Mauer Morneau era was definitely something to get excited about as a Twins fan. So I
Also,
think people are gonna
maybe
love that pick.
maybe one of the most dominant Minnesota athletes to ever live.
Yeah, he was. In Minnesota, yeah, homegrown in Minnesota. He
Yes.
destroyed at Cretin-Derham Hall as well in high school. So he's a true Minnesotan on this list. All right, I got two in a row. These are my last two. I'm taking Antoine Winfield Sr., obviously. Antoine Winfield Sr., when he played for the Vikings, he's just this short dude that was feisty as hell. You compare him to a newer guy, like he was like the Percy Harvin of defense. This short guy, but he's so good at what he does, and he knows everything. He knows what to do. He's a fantastic tackler. He's feisty. He gets everything done that you need him to do. Antoine Winfield was always that guy in the field for the Vikings that you just watched him and you're like, this guy doesn't look like he belongs, but when you see him actually play football, you're like, this guy is outplaying everyone else on the field. That's what you got from Antoine Winfield Sr., and that's why I'm taking him with my 4th selection. And then my last pick, I'm going Johan Santana.
Oh,
Johan Santana was a slinger for the Twins. I just remember when Johan was balling out in Minnesota. He was such a good pitcher for us, and every time he stepped on the mound, you were thinking this is a win. He was so dominant, and we haven't really had, outside of like Maeda's last season, we haven't had a pitcher be as dominant since those years that Johan Santana was throwing it in Minnesota. So that's why he's going to be my one Twins pick on this list, and that's why I wanted to take him before the draft is over, because Johan Santana was a main reason why I used to watch the Twins. So
yeah, I like that pick too. He was obviously one of the best. I mean, Twins legends. I when I think of Twins legends, I think of Joe Mauer, Johan Santana, and God dang it,
Morneau,
no center fielder.
Ben Revere,
No,
Kadire. Kadire played
he
right
ended
field, I think.
he ended his career with us. He came back
Ended
after a
his
long
career
time.
with us. Oh, Torrey Hunter.
Torrey Hunter, jeez, Torrey Hunter, yes,
Torrey Hunter would have been also a fan. Torrey Hunter's
yes,
amazing.
yes.
Uh,
He was one of the best.
I had a bunch of like that era Twins on my list. I had, well, I guess we'll let you finish your draft before I talk about the rest of my Twins.
Yeah, I
So
do
your
too.
last pick of the draft.
There's
What
one
do you
twin
got?
who is probably my favorite twin of all time, other than Joe Mauer, but I'm not going to pick him because I'm going to pick the franchise, the Minnesota Wild franchise, Mikko Koivu. Every kid's favorite player. He was born. You were born to love Mikko Koivu, Wild's first captain, first all-time captain. He's a legend. Just a historic career. Just retired actually. I get a little choked up when I talk about Mikko Koivu. He just means a lot to a lot of Wild fans growing up. Um, he gave everything to his career to Minnesota, and yeah, so Mikko Koivu, I probably would have put him over Nicholas Backstrom, but I just looked at it now. Some
We're gonna get murdered for this, like absolutely murdered. Anyone listening to it right now, this is probably what you're thinking at the moment. We didn't pick Adrian Peterson, and and for the majority of people, Adrian Peterson is probably going to be the first or second pick in the draft. Like obviously, Adrian Peterson, one of the best Vikings, if not the best to ever play in purple. Just Jackson and I, he left a bad taste in our mouth when he left, just due to the fact that he was demanding so much money and was kind of mad that we weren't giving it to him, even though he had obviously declined and he really couldn't catch the ball in the backfield and he just wasn't the player he used to be. And then he got kind of mad for it and was demanding a ton of money from the Vikings, and we let him walk. And I think we're probably in the small minority of people that like that left a bad taste in their mouth, because obviously he had a fantastic career for us, but that's the reason why we didn't take AP. Do you have any other thing to say to defend ourselves?
Yeah, it's just our favorite players growing up, and Adrian Peterson really was never my favorite player growing up. Throughout that era, it was Jared Allen for me. He was my favorite player. I would wait for the defense to come on sometimes just to watch Jared Allen sit there and get the crowd pumped up with his little arm wave. It was my favorite thing to watch. Some honorable mentions. I don't know. I had some Jason Kubel.
Yes, I was going to put Jason Kuba on the list.
I had Nino Niederreiter was my favorite Wild for a little while. Cordero Patterson, obviously a huge fan favorite. That's all the honorable mentions I've got. Obviously, we said Torrey Hunter.
Yeah. I had Harrison Smith on there, obviously fantastic for us. Michael Kadire was on my list.
Yep.
Teddy Bridgewater, I love Teddy. A lot of people are canceling people that like Teddy just
Yeah,
because
they
he's not
are.
a great quarterback, but I love him for other reasons other than his quarterback skills. So you guys can fuck off. Daniil Hunter on there. Obviously, he's a younger guy, but he's the best pass rusher since Jared that we've had. Cal Clutterbuck was my
Oh
wild
yeah.
player I had on my list. I just remember watching Cal Clutterbuck and thinking that he had the coolest name on the planet.
And he would
So
wreck people.
he would wreck people, and that's the exact type of hockey player that I like. Shout out Foligno for beating the shit out of that dude last night. That was
Oh boy.
awesome. And yeah, that wraps up my list there.
Yeah. So we'll put this up on Twitter, and you
We
can
are
roast
we are
us.
going to get absolutely murdered for not having AP.
Yeah.
Like people might unfollow us for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are
Whatever.
also yeah, whatever. Moving on, we'll go on to some Timberwolves news. We'll start with the firing of Ryan Saunders. What are your thoughts over this?
It needed to happen so bad. I mean, everyone knew it. The writing was on the wall. We've been calling for Ryan's head for a while now, even dating back to last season. People have just been waiting for Cat and D'Lo to play together to actually like be sure that Ryan wasn't the guy, but we can't wait that long. The Timberwolves suck. Like the Timberwolves are so bad; they've always been bad. You can't keep waiting to make moves. You need to make them when you know they're right, and that's what the front office, Glenn Taylor, did. They fired Ryan Saunders. I was surprised. I thought they'd let him finish out the season. I didn't think that was the right idea to do, but I thought they would let him finish out the season just because of how much they love Ryan here in Minnesota. But fired Ryan Saunders. I'm excited about it because it means that the Wolves are taking a step either forward or backwards. The Wolves need to take chances. Like if you're the last team, if the worst team in the league, you need to take chances. Some of them are going to hit, some of them are going to miss, but you can't get much worse than what we're playing right now. So I'm very excited that Saunders was fired. Obviously, he's a fantastic dude. Everyone loves Ryan, but he just wasn't the coach for us. And we hired Chris Finch. So we'll see where we go from there. Hopefully, we can make some improvements and set ourselves up better for next season.
That was probably the fastest fired to hired time in between I've ever seen in sports. Was that the right thing to do?
Yeah, so some people are bitching because it's obviously hurts for Ryan to get 1 second he's fired and the next second we've already hired our new head coach, which means that we've been talking to this guy already.
Yeah.
We've been talking to him before we even fired Ryan. So it kind of gives you like some people gave him like, oh, we were cheating on Ryan Saunders with Coach Finch. But I don't think they should be getting heat for this. Saunders wasn't the guy, and once they figured that out, they knew they were moving on. Gerson Rosas in the press conference yesterday, he said that they were given permission to speak to Chris Finch in the middle of the New York Knicks game, which was right before Ryan Saunders was fired. They obviously talked to him then. They already made their decision, and we moved on quick. And I think even while it might hurt Ryan's feelings, it's something that you need to do. If you know who your next guy is going to be, don't wait a week just to save Ryan's feelings. You need to get working on winning. This is not, like I said, I tweeted this out. This is the basketball business, not the feelings business. Like you need to work on winning basketball games, not giving Ryan time and then hiring a head coach. Ryan knows that we respect what he tried to do here in Minnesota, but we need to move on as fast as we can because we need to start winning basketball games or this team's moving the hell out of here. So, I mean, while some people leave a salty taste in their mouth that we hired his replacement immediately, I think it's just us getting a head start on what we're trying to do as a franchise, and I respect them for it.
Do you think Ryan Saunders will have a job?
He'll definitely catch on. I don't think it won't be here. Because that'd be very weird. You don't see head coaches like get fired and then catch on with the same team. And unless very odd situations, I don't think that he would be ready to come back here. But yeah, he's definitely going to catch on somewhere in the league, be an assistant coach. I think he'd be a solid assistant coach. He just wasn't ready for a head coaching position yet. And I wish nothing but success for Ryan because he is such a good dude and all his players loved him. So While he's not a head coach yet, I think he can catch on and be a solid assistant somewhere else in the NBA.
Okay. How do you think the team, the players, the fans will handle all of this? I mean, we've seen some things from Cat come out recently, but
Yeah, I mean, the fans obviously love it. The fans are waiting for this for a long time. The players, I think it's a different story. I think that the players had a really emotional connection to Ryan. They're all the same age. Obviously, Ryan's only like 34 years old, so it's easier to connect to a coach that's more your age, understands things that you're going through as a player. So I think Cat's going to take this extremely hard because Cat and Ryan Saunders were really close. Cat really advocated for Ryan Saunders staying here. And I know the other players loved him as well, the young guys. I heard some chatter that D'Angelo Russell and Ryan Saunders didn't really see eye to eye. From I think Darren Wolfson said that, and which is surprising because D'Lo and Cat are boys, and Cat likes Ryan, and D'Lo apparently did not really see a liking for Ryan. So maybe that, I don't know, maybe there's a rift between D'Lo and Cat. Who knows? But I mean, it's interesting. I think the team is going to have to. The team's going to be kind of sad for a while because Ryan's gone, because they connected him with him really well. But I think they'll bounce back eventually, and hopefully Coach Finch is the right guy to lead the team.
So you see a lot of people talking about the assistant coach, David Vanderpool. Do you think that could have been a better hire than Finch?
Everyone loves David Vanderpool. I mean, like, players love him. He used to coach in Portland with Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. He's Damian Lillard's favorite coach that he's ever had. So you saw that tweet from Lillard last night or the other night when he didn't get hired. But I mean, I'm not in the position to say if it was a mistake not to hire Vanderpool. I know players love him, but I mean, is he a great coach? I don't really know. I'm not really in the position to make that kind of assessment. I know the players would have really loved for Vanderpool to get head coach because he's such a player's coach. But I mean, I trust Gerson and the front office. They've got a plan. Obviously, we don't know if that plan is going to work yet, but they do have a plan. So as long as there is a plan going forward, it's more than the Timberwolves have had in the past. So I'm excited for Coach Finch, and Vanderpool is going to stay as assistant coach, and he'll get some head coaching looks in the future because of his resume with players. But we'll see what happens with Vanderpool. I think he's the kind of guy that he's just going to move on. He's not going to be too caught up about it, and he's going to keep doing his job. So
any more changes that we can expect going forward?
Yeah, so Chris Finch, he was introduced the last night in the press conference. He talked about things that he wanted to do. Some takeaways I had from it is that the Timberwolves are going to be a very, very fast-paced team with Coach Finch. We're going to be running the floor. Not much pick and roll. Just keep running the floor, getting shots up quick. And that's what we want to see out of a young team like this that's pretty good at a stamina running. We can outrun some veteran teams. I think that's the way for this roster to win currently. He also mentioned in the press conference, we need to do everything around Cat. And that's something we strayed away from a little bit since Cat got back. He wasn't getting the shot attempts that he was normally getting. And that was frustrating for a lot of fans. And I'm sure Cat maybe as well too, was frustrated by that. But if you look at Coach Finch's career path, he's worked with a ton of amazing bigs. He worked in Denver with Nikola Jokic. He worked in New Orleans with Anthony Davis, with Zion Williamson, and he was just in Toronto working with Pascal Siakam. So he's got the resume of working with bigs and making bigs well-rounded players. So I think Cat's going to see a huge role stepping forward, and hopefully we can get this offense, because Finch is known for his offensive skill set. He runs great offenses wherever he's been. So that's exciting to see. Hopefully it can be better in Minnesota with him here as well.
Yeah.
So good changes for the Wolves. Excited to see something change because something needed to. I'm excited. The Wolves play tonight against the Bucks. The podcast will be out by then, but I'm just excited to see this team play. and it gives some new life into the organization. We'll move on to the Wild. The Wild played last night, 9:30 game, which is just for people that live in Minnesota. You starting a hockey game at 9:30. I mean, you're not going to bed till after midnight, which is kind of tough. And we played a lot of those this year. But you had the Johansson injury. He's obviously not playing with us right now because he's hurt. How is that affecting, or will affect, and has been affecting the Wild going forward? And do you think that we will struggle without him in?
Yeah, so he got injured a couple games ago. Got hit by Green. Well, he got hit by a player. I think Greenway hit the player into him, and he hit his back, or he hit his neck really hard. I think he got his neck back. It sounds like he has a possibility of coming back tomorrow night. Him along with Cam Talbot will possibly be back tomorrow night. But the team looked very well last night. Without him, not saying that they don't need him. He's obviously a skilled player, but I think Victor asks. That's not a name I would have thought, but Victor Ask stepped up last night and the night before. So
the last guy on the team you'd expect to step up.
Yeah.
He's been doing it this year, though. Major improvements from Rask
on the team.
That's crazy. I would have never expected. I wouldn't even guess he would have got 5 goals in the entire season had you asked me at the beginning of the year.
Nope.
Another guy who's been playing great the last couple of games, Mats Zuccarello. He was injured to start the season. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest year last year, and people have been pretty critical of him. But he's been stepping up as of late, and he's having a lot of success with our king Kirill Kaprizov. And do you think that that's sustainable? Do you think they can keep that going and be as productive as a line as they have been in the last few games?
I don't see why not, and it's just awesome to see. I mean, Kaprizov obviously he's had one of the best rookie years in Minnesota Wild history, and one of the best rookie years this year out of any other rookie before Zuccarello came back. But since Zuccarello's comeback, they've just created more high risk scoring chances, and they looked excellent. The chemistry is just growing. Obviously, a veteran, skilled player like Matt Zuccarello will help any young player. But Matt's looks better than last year. I think he's more comfortable, maybe a little healthier. He was only on one team his whole career, other than the tiny bit with the Stars. So I think he's just a little bit more comfortable being with another team this year with the Wild. And I learned last night that he can actually speak a little bit of Russian, so that definitely helps too. Not a whole lot of players other than Russians can speak Russian.
Yeah, sure.
So the chemistry is building. They have Rask in between them, who's, I mean, I'm not going to say he's looked really good and he's worth. He's looked better than Nino Niederreiter, who currently has like 9 or 10 goals this year, but he's looked very well, and it's finally. He's playing finally, and he has 5 goals like we mentioned, and he's second on the team with that stat. It's the same amount of points as Kevin Fiala. So I think Zuccarello is the answer for who should be with Kaprizov. He's been going up and down the lines trying to find a match, but Zuccarello, I think a lot of Wild fans predicted this. I thought that he would be a good match for them too. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this duo will go along for the rest of the year.
Coming on as late, Kevin Fiala has been scorching hot on the line with Joel Eriksson-Ek and Jordan Greenway. Why do you think that this change and playing with those two guys has catapulted his success, and why do you think he's finding the back of the net so frequently now?
Yeah, so he has 15 shots in his last 3 games, and he has 3 goals in his last 3 games. With two goals this last game, or not this last game, the game before that, the first game this line started playing with each other. He had 2 goals and a point. He had 3 points. I mean, Joel Eriksson-Ek and Greenway have been excellent this year. Probably the two, not really surprises, but biggest breakout players out of the whole team. So I think this was predictable. I don't know why this wasn't tried earlier. But yeah, this Joel Eriksson-Ek and Greenway line with Fiala, it's excellent. It brings some skill with that power of Greenway and that defensive and just smart hockey sense of Joel. And I think this is exciting if this sticks. They didn't have the greatest game last night. Probably JE's and Greenway's worst game as a Minnesota Wild this year. But I think this line's gonna be one of the best on the team going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Kevin Fiala he's had his moments last season too, where he was just going off, one of the best players in the league for a stretch. So exciting to see him get right back to that. Another player that's been playing super well, Kaapo Kakinen, however you say it. I say it differently every single time, but he's been playing super well lately as well. How would you evaluate his performance, and how do you think that we're going to start? How do you think we're going to split time with him and Talbot going forward?
Yeah, so Capo, he's had his ups, like you say, he's had his ups and downs this year. The last 2 games has been probably his best of the year. I mean, he didn't get a whole lot of action against the Anaheim Ducks in that second game, but last night I think was his best game as a pro, and that might not. He's had a shutout, so that might be a bit of a surprise. But I think just evaluating how he played last night, he was seeing the puck. He was seeing the puck better than Dubnyk saw, I think, ever. Dubnyk was the kind of goalie. They're two different types of goalies, though. But yeah, he did. But Dubnyk was the type of goalie. If he saw the puck, he's gonna save it. But when it's scramble mode, it's probably gonna be a goal. And Capo is a smaller goalie who has to rely on his vision and his strength and his agileness, and that's what he showed last night. And he made some saves where the puck was deflected 3 times, and he saw it the whole way, and he was out on top of the crease. He was getting in position much better than he has past few games. I think this is a great start for this young goaltender this year. He's been excellent. He has a save percentage above 900, which is always good for a young goaltender in the NHL. But Talbot is coming back. Talbot, oh my goodness, Talbot was great the game before we had the break. So I think Talbot obviously is going to be stepping in when he's back and ready for game action. He's going to be stepping in and taking that number 1 spot. But Kakinen has a future with the Minnesota Wild, and whether it's starting role next year, I know Talbot's under contract, but he's an option to be taken in the expansion draft. So I think Kakinen is the future goaltender of the Minnesota Wild. I'm excited. You just see so much of Nicholas Backstrom, and that's probably why I like the kid so much. But he looks so good, and I'm very excited for the future of this 4th round pick.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good to have 2 options at goalie that you can go to. Because if you're in sticky situation with one, whether it be an injury or something else, you've always got a solid backup to go to who can really come in, step in, and win games for you. We saw Dubnyk come in last night for the Sharks. He had that one puck that went bounced off the top of his glove and went in.
It was a horrible goal. I mean, it's always tough. I will give him credit. It's always tough for a goaltender to come into a game that you're told to be mentally prepared for every game, whether you're starting or not. But it's tough to come into a game late, especially when you're in slaughter with shots like the Wild were last night.
I don't know if he was in for this one either, but the one that was, I don't remember who shot it, but it was deflected, and he was expecting it to come in fast, but it was deflected and just lofted over the shoulder. Was that Dubnyk?
That was Brodin's goal.
Okay.
I think that was later. So yeah, I think it was Dubnyk, but Jones had a goal like that to go in, so it was one of them.
There was a bunch of really odd deflections last night.
Yeah. They were. So pucks were going in finally, which we've been waiting for all year.
Yeah, definitely the Wild bounced our way.
They played good, but they didn't play 6-2 good. But yeah.
Moving oh no, we got one more. You talked about it briefly. During a different question, but you talked about Victor Rask and how he's been playing. Can you briefly go over if you think that he's gonna be able to keep this up, or are we gonna see the Victor Rask that we've seen in previous years?
I can't confidently say that I think Victor Rask will keep up the scoring production. I think he had his first assist last night, though. I think he had 2, though. But I can say that if he continues to be on Kaprizov's line, which I don't see that happening when Johansson comes back, but if he continues to be on Kaprizov's line, he always will have opportunities to get goals with how Kaprizov can move the puck. And boy, another thing is Kaprizov, if he shot the puck more, and then the shots that he's taking, if he hits the net more, he's going to have a 30-goal season this year, or in following years, not this year, but he's going to be obviously the incredible scorer that we know he already is, but he doesn't shoot sometimes. He needs to. There was one play he had like nearly a breakaway yesterday, and he passed it to Mats. He's just too kind right now. He needs to be a little less kind with the puck. But anyways,
Yeah.
Victor Rask also the last game against the Ducks, he was 13-14 on the winning draws. So stats like that don't happen very often. I mean, elite centers don't get 13-14 draws in a single game. So if he continues to win draws, which is what the Wild need, he's going to be up there with that line as well. So as long as he stays with this line, I can see his points going up and up.
Yeah, no, the Wild. We got a bright outlook for the Wild. They're looking good for the future. We hope they can win some games and be competitive. What else you got?
I can't go talking about the Wild and not talk about Marcus Foligno's third career Gordie Howe hat trick. He had a goal, assist, and a demolishing fight against the young Russian.
Beat the shit out of that dude. His face was
yes.
Gosh.
He had 2 punches, both blood ensuing punches, and he called the ref over. I mean, it was an excellent fight, excellent sportsmanship, as much sportsmanship as you can do while punching a guy's face in. But it was an awesome.
Do you think it's more sportsmanship, or like you just showing the guy that you dominated him so bad that you have to call someone over to help him?
Well, I think if say like Tom Wilson, if he was Washington Capitals, Tom Wilson, if he was beating some guy up that ticked him off, I don't think he would have stopped there. I think he would have beat him till the refs would break him up. No, Marcus, the kid wanted to fight him. You don't want to fight Marcus Foligno. Ryan Carter said it's the hardest punch he ever delivered, and Ryan Carter was a fighter in the league, so that's saying something. 2 punches into the face mask or the face glass, and your eye is bleeding down to your socks. And partially Marcus probably didn't want blood on his jersey, and partially Marcus, he didn't want to destroy the young kid. The kid's like 19 or 20, I think. So. But yeah, it was excellent. Third career Gordie Howe hat trick for Marcus Foligno. Last one was against Curtis Gabriel and the Devils, I think 2 years ago. But yeah, that'll wrap up the Wild talk. We'll get into the Twitter mailbag. We have sports and anonymous questions. We have a decent amount this week, but we'll start out with Austin Clayton. So Austin asks, who are the best set of brothers to ever play sports in your opinion? And I did some research here, but I'll let you go first.
Oh my God. You go first, because I did not do research, and trying to think of this is very difficult.
Maybe I'm saying this just because I'm a giant hockey fan, but I think there's no better brothers than the Sedin brothers. I mean, you look at the Sedin brothers. They played with each other on the same line for their whole career, it seemed like. I think their whole career, and they tallied up to around like 2,600 points combined. I mean, Daniel Sedin had 1,300, and Henrik Sedin had 1,327. So both captains on the Vancouver Canucks, both franchise players, stay on the same franchise. They have Daniel has 391 goals. Henrik has 240 goals. Daniel has 647 assists, and Henrik has 828 assists. I mean, the points was a little more varied, but around the same. I mean, you got 1,068 points for Henrik and 1,038 points for Daniel, and I think it's the greatest career between brothers, and there are a lot of great brothers in sports, but I think the Sedin brothers are the greatest.
Peyton and Eli Manning.
I disagree.
4 Super Bowls between the two. I mean, obviously Eli wasn't fantastic. He was a great quarterback for a while. At the end of the career, he faded. But Peyton Manning, absolute legend. I mean, I think brothers, Peyton and Eli, easily the most dominant.
See, the question is best brothers, and Eli. I mean, do you think he had a Hall of Fame career?
I think he will make the Hall of Fame. Yes, I think he faded at the tail end of his career, which hurts him. But he winning 2 Super Bowls against Brady is a task in itself. So I think that buys him a way into the Hall of Fame.
I'd say they're the winningest brothers. I'm a little embarrassed, but I think the Sedin brothers have a Stanley Cup. But I think the Sedin brothers are the most successful
and best at their position brothers to ever live.
If we're going siblings, it's Serena and Venus Williams, who have absolutely destroyed everyone in women's tennis since they were like young.
Probably have to mention her, too.
Serena's still the GOAT, and she's had a kid, and she's like 40 years old.
Yeah, that's
So-
pretty impressive. They have to be up there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking up.
All right. Well, you looking that up, I'll move in. Next question from Riker. Jackson, this question will be for you. Who's the number one player in the NHL as of now? Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews?
Oh, it's Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's one of the best players of all time already. And if you want to hate me on that, then go ahead, right ahead. Just as the eye test, he's the fastest player with the puck of all time. He's the fastest player of all time. He'll get the points. Obviously, he's never going to catch Wayne Gretzky, the great one, but he'll get the points. Already has 500 points. He's 22, 23 years old. Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL. Highlight reel player every single night. But Austin Matthews, he's catching up this year. I think he surpassed McKinnon for the second best player in the entire NHL. He is a gifted scorer. I mean, you get the puck on his stick, and he's going to rip a puck in the net no matter how much space he has. But I think Austin Matthews will this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think he'll have more Stanley Cups than McDavid. Just being on the Oilers, it's never good luck, but Leafs as well, bad luck as well, I guess. But McKinnon, Austin Matthews, and McDavid are the top three in the league, not in that order, in the opposite order, but yeah, McDavid's the best player in the league.
All right, moving to the next question. We're going to do, okay, so this one question is from Garbage Time Sports. Who are the top 5 players from NHL, NFL, MLB? And just to cut it down a little bit, we're going to do 3 because I think we're running out long on time now. So we'll cut it to 3: NHL, NFL, MLB, top 3 players.
Okay. NHL. Oh, my dogs are barking. See, you can see the unedited part on YouTube. You can see all that,
Yes,
but
you
I'm
can.
gonna edit that out. Top 5 players NHL. I would go. We just talked about this. McDavid, Austin Matthews, McKinnon. NFL, Mahomes. That's where I have to think a little bit. Mahomes. Probably Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Those are my top 3. And then
yeah.
MLB. I was trying to think of this the other night. I was having a conversation with somebody. This is the hardest one because obviously it's Mike Trout, who's a dominant pitcher. Probably Jacob deGrom, and maybe Mookie Betts. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of like great consistent players in the MLB. Should we switch that to NBA?
We could do NBA too.
But
Do you have a top 3
anyways,
list for NBA?
That's what I was thinking. I don't really, as a dumb
John
NBA,
Morant.
as a dumb NBA fan, I'm gonna go by what you talked about too. Kevin. Oh my goodness.
Kevin Garnett.
No. LeBron James.
Shut up. No,
Kevin
stop. You can't have LeBron on your list.
I don't know. Kevin Durant. I don't
Kevin
know.
Durant, John Morant.
John Morant. There you go. And who's a player I really love?
I'm Iman Shumpert.
Dang, who is he? He plays for the Blazers, I think.
Damian Lillard.
Raptors, no Blazers. Damian Lillard.
There you go. Dame
Yes.
time. There's next. Okay, my top 3. I'll start with NHL. Tyler Seguin, Johnny Gaudreau, and then we're gonna throw it back and do a former player, Pavel Datsyuk, filthy ass dangles. Sick. Watch him on YouTube. He's got like a 50-minute clip of him just dangling goalies and shootouts. MLB, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Chris Bryant. Those are my top 3 there. NFL, Aaron Donald, Julio Jones,
Okay.
and then I'm torn between Torn between my third favorite player in the NFL. I really don't know. It's probably Dalvin Cook. And then NBA.
Damn, I'm gonna get roasted for not saying that.
Yeah. NBA. Yeah, most people would say 3 Vikings, but we're not gonna do that. NBA, Zion Williamson. I love Zion as a Duke fan. Karis LeVert. That's if you don't really. Karis is a good player. A lot of casual NBA fans wouldn't know who Karis LeVert is, but and then Kevin Durant's my third favorite. KD's just so fun to watch.
Is this favorite or best? Because favorite, all mine would be different.
Oh yeah, we're doing. Is it favorite? Oh, this is top 5. Okay, I read this totally wrong.
That's why I was confused why you were mad when I said LeBron. I mean, I know you hate LeBron, but
yeah, okay, I read this totally wrong. I read it as top 5 like favorite players from these leagues. So yeah, we did this question wrong, but we'll move on. You get the gist of it. Jeff Starkey asks, "Are you excited?" This problem is probably for me. Are you excited the Wolves hired Chris Finch? I talked about it earlier. Yes, I'm super excited. New start for the Wolves. Whether it's good or bad, we're making moves, and that's what we need to do. So I'm excited for the Finch era and see what he does with this roster. And move on. Miscellaneous questions. First one's from JJ Walker. What are 3? I'll read it word for word. This is how we wrote it. What are the 3 top things on your bucket list? And what is one thing that you would never, ever, ever, never, ever want to do?
what?
I'll repeat that again. And one thing that you would never, ever, ever, never, ever want to do.
So why is it on my bucket list? Let's see. I could think of this. So what's something I've always wanted to do but never want to do? Jump out of a plane. That's an easy one.
That's on your bucket list?
Well, it's something that seems like a cool idea. Could never do.
3 things that are on your bucket list. So 3 things that you want to do before you die, and one thing that you would never, ever, ever, never, ever want to do.
Okay, so 3 things I want to do. I've always wanted to go to a game at TD Garden and watch a Red Sox game. So that's probably number 1 for a long time. I've always wanted to do that. Number 2, I've never really thought of a bucket list thing.
No, me neither. You could just give you can just go like 1 or 2, and then one thing that you would never want to do.
2, fish with Kevin Van Dam. And then one thing I never, ever, ever, ever want to do is jump out of a plane.
There you go. I thought it was on your bucket list as something that you didn't want to do. It's on most people's bucket list, actually, but I kind of would agree with you on that. Bucket list, I'm just going to give you one for the sake of time, but Super Bowl, going to the Super Bowl, I mean, it has got to be up there for a lot of sports fans. It'd be a very cool event, especially if your team was in it. It'd be like the greatest high you could ever feel would be watching your own team live at the Super Bowl. One thing that I would never, ever, never, ever want to do would be, I'm really scared of heights. Oh, bungee jumping, hands down, bungee jumping. That scares the shit out of me. Like every time people bungee jump, like that, it looks like that little rope is going to snap and then you're just going to die. So I would say bungee jumping is something that I'd never want to do because it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, that looks horrible. Next question from Grant Storm. What's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal, steak and potatoes. Steak and mashed potatoes. So good. I mean, I would argue steak is the best meat. Mashed potatoes is the best side. You put them together. I'm one happy man.
Yeah. I do it's close between steak, but I think a walleye dinner is probably one of the best meals you could have. If you like fish, of course, but yeah.
All right, next question, Hunter Engelbrecht. He's got 3 in a row to end the show. If you were to play a professional sport, and what sport, what position, and what number would you be, and why?
Sport, I'd probably play, obviously, hockey. I'd be backup goalie, and I'd be number 30.
Why would you back up?
because I never want to play
But
unless that was really good.
You said last week on. Oh, I guess. So you're talking about like with the talent you have right now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, if I were to play a professional sport, I would play a basketball because I make a shit ton of money and it's all guaranteed. And NFL players
True.
always complain.
Why did I just choose the least paying sport in all professional sports?
I would play basketball. My position would be, well, I mean, given my height, I'm gonna pretend I'm taller. My position would be shooting guard. And my number would be, I mean, I love number 17, but it's not a basketball number. Dennis Schroeder wears it, but it's kind of ugly as a basketball number. So I'd wear number
0. Coolest number in basketball.
I'd wear a single digit number. I'd wear number 7. Number 7. KD's wearing it now. It looks pretty sick. I'd go number 7.
I'm changing my answer to I want to be a DH in baseball and wear the number 1.
There you go. DH.
All right.
Next one from Hunter. Why is there no mouse flavored cat
I don't like
food?
this question. It's just I'm sorry, Hunter. I don't like this question. How are you supposed to flavor something mouse? You're supposed to label it mouse and just have it like plain food. I just don't understand the question.
Even if this is like, I think if you put mouse flavored cat food on something, like obviously only the cat is eating it, but the human buying it. And if the human sees mouse flavored, they just think disgusting in the first place. So I don't think people would actually buy mouse flavored cat food because of it just says mouse on it.
It's all about marketing.
It is about marketing, and I don't think you're really marketing to the people that are buying the product. If it says mouse flavored on the cat food, they're just gonna think, ew, gross. My cat's eating that, nasty. Mice, gross. Okay, so that's why it's not a thing.
Last question from Hunter again. What sound does a finch make?
God, I'm sure this is prompted from the Wolves hiring Chris Finch. Oh, you have a noise for us right here.
This is the zebra finch.
Can you play it louder into the mic?
Can you hear it?
All right. It's very faint, but we can hear it. All right. There's the finch. There's the finch
That's
noise.
what the finch makes.
So if anyone else was curious outside of Hunter, which I'm sure you were probably not very curious, but that's what sound the finch makes. Thank everyone for listening today. Obviously, NFL is over, so we've transitioned into Wild Wolves news and our basic world of sports news. Keep watching us every week. We're on YouTube now, so if you typically listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and you want to catch a video of us talking, even though we're pretty ugly, you can go on YouTube and watch it for a change. Thank everyone for tuning in this week, and we appreciate the questions.
Yeah, and if anybody has any suggestions on what else they want to see on YouTube, if they want to see us live stream a game, watching a game, live stream, I don't know anything. I don't know. I'm not very good at the gaming thing. So if you want to see that, then that would be funny to watch too. So literally anything.
You can definitely you can live stream on there pretty easily. So if we're ever together and you want to see us get pretty pissed at like a Vikings game or some shit, just let us know because we'll give you the content if you want it.
Absolutely. And thank you again for everybody for asking questions, listening and everything. And go subscribe to the YouTube channel, press like, and give us a thumbs up on podcasts, whatever you're listening on. And as always,
you like that.